Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy BlackManSuburb living here with another video for you guys. Now, you may be wondering, who is this guy? What is he doing on my screen? Valid questions. My name is Asa Taylor, and what inspired me to make this channel is simply I wanted a better life, right? But it's become much more than that now, and I understand how impactful YouTube can be. So I wanted to do something that I know for a fact is going to, that I can speak on from personal experience, and something that's going to get you guys, the audience's attention, right? And so this suburban living movement is literally just to show and highlight the differences between what I went through as a kid and what is out in the world today. My background, how I grew up versus what we see in the news, what we see in schools today, everything like that. So everything in between we're gonna tackle. Okay? My background. So my background is, I have a military background. My dad was military for 21, 22 years, something like that. My mom was military for 10 years. And so we grew up very, very hard. And when I say that, I mean unworldly. Okay, so the typical TV time, the typical public school, the typical, hey, let's go spend the night at your friend's house, that was not going in our household. Okay, we had strict rules and guidelines that we had to follow, and we made sure we followed it because guess what? The person that was setting the rules was respected in the house, and us as kids, we didn't want to incur that wrath. Okay, so we were operating off of a fear. And I think that's going to be the best way to parent, in my opinion, because that's how I was brought up. So now you guys know what my family did. You guys know how I grew up, military, but you guys don't know how many brothers and sisters I have. So I am the middle of 10. The oldest is going to be 46, 47, 48, something like that. And the youngest is 21, right? So I fall somewhere in the middle. Now, our daily routine, okay, because we were homeschooled, our daily routine is something out of a movie, okay? We woke up at 6 o'clock. A lot of times what we would do is we would have Bible study, or we would just, work out. A lot of the guys, we would, do push-ups and stuff like that. The girls would be in the kitchen helping my mom prepare dinner and things like that. So a lot of the times we knew exactly what we were doing. So after we got done with what we were doing, we would all just have Bible study, okay? So that is going to be the basis of how we grew up. It was very structured. We all knew exactly what we needed to do, and we did it willingly without any complications, right? And so it was the easiest life I can really think of. And one of the things that stands out to me now is that people don't necessarily have what I had growing up, which is why I wanted to make this channel. And again, I was homeschooled. So again, my schedule from 6 all the way to 6, 7 o'clock in the afternoon was already planned out. Okay, so we, like I said, we do Bible study, then we would, work out, or whichever one comes first. Then after that, we would start our schoolwork. See, the benefits of having brothers and sisters that are actually in it with you is because they can actually help you. See, we started reading at 3 or 4 years old, right? We were at, a 8th grade reading level before we were 5 or 6, and a lot of the times, everything that we were working on, the next person had already done it, right? So we just help each other out. We would take the test and we would pass it. And it was just that simple. And it wasn't we had a break at Christmas time. It wasn't we had a break in the summertime or anything like that. It was all year round school, right? And there was no exceptions for that. Now, typically when you're living in a suburban household, you have something like this, or you have something else like private school. And we'll talk about that at a different time because we experienced that as well, right? But in this video, we're going to be talking about homeschooling for right now, right? And my background. So, like I said, typically in suburban households, you have a lot of, hey, we have one person going to work, the other one staying home, and things like that. Now, the religion I was brought up with is Christianity. A lot of people might not identify it. A lot of people might identify it with it. But typical thing was we had to wake up, we go to church on Sundays and things like that. And, like I said, during the week, we'd have Bible study. But that played a pivotal role in how we grew up because we were not allowed to do anything. Rap music, rock and roll, anything like that. I didn't even know a person named Michael Jackson until my mom and dad were about to get separated. I think I was 10 years old. That's when I found out Michael Jackson is when he died, because we were that disconnected from reality. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. What does a 1 to 10-year-old need to know about Michael Jackson? What does a 1 to 10-year-old need to know about the world in general? We're worried about where's mom? Where's dad? What does our schoolwork look like? What are we doing tomorrow? We had all these questions. So a lot of the times we didn't have time to worry about anything that was going on. We didn't grow up in the hood. There was no shootings or anything like that. We wasn't out running the streets or anything. We grew up in a stable environment, and our father was present, mother was present, things like that. Now, again, like I said, typically in a suburban household, when you look at the dynamics between the man and the woman, usually the guy is going to be at work and the woman's going to stay home. Now, in this case, in my case, my dad thought homeschooling is going to be the best course of action for us. Rightfully so, and I agree. We did homeschooling just because it was better than public school, right? And later on, we'll kind of get into the ins and outs of public school, the ins and outs of private school, the differences that I saw and things like that. Now, as we were homeschooling, as we were growing up in this environment, it's very, very easy to just lean over and ask a question because we all know each other. We have that filial bond, and so it was just easy for us to just keep on keeping on, because anytime I ran into a problem, I would ask somebody next to me that I knew the answer, right? And so we had a good thing going until they divorced. Okay, now they divorced somewhere around 2005, 2006, 2007, somewhere in there, right? And the reason was, apparently she wasn't listening, he wasn't listening, whatever the case may be. We all know what happens in these type of situations. Now, in the suburban culture, there are two things that are very, very prevalent in the society, right? Number one, like I said, culture, and number two is class. Let's hit on the culture part first. So, with the culture, people in suburban households are typically very, very cultured. And what I mean by that is they have interactions with white people, black people, Asians, Latinos, things like that. And a lot of times, a lot of these people would end up being some of our best friends, and we didn't know any different, right? So a lot of the times, if you're living in a suburban community, you're not going to see a black person for a while, okay? But that's not to say that there are no black people, because there are. Typically, the way I grew up and some other people grow up, they're not seeing their first black person until later on down the line, especially if you're military, because on military bases, you're traveling to Europe and overseas. On those military bases, you're only going to interact with people who were there, okay? And so for me, I can remember seeing my first black person at 11, 10, maybe just a little bit before that, but it was in that 9 to 11 range, okay? And our culture, growing up the way we did consists of, different people in different atmospheres that we were exposed to. So Asian, like I said, Latinos, white people, we all mixed and matched the cultures. We all cooked the different dishes like my mom did. She was real excited about this recipe one time, and it was from a woman from Honduras. I can remember her trying to cook enchiladas or pozole, something like that, man. Don't quote me on that, but I think so. Tortilla soup and sushi and things like that. Those were all in her wheelhouse. And by the way, she's a wonderful cook. And so we necessarily didn't grow up like the typical household, because the culture that we were exposed to at that time, traveling around the world, was what was available to us. And we still talk to these people to these days sometimes. And it made such an impact on our lives that it became like, as we were aging, as we were growing up a little bit at a time, we started to ask for them, and we had no idea that they were in just different countries and different states altogether. But that was how close we ended up being, okay? Now let's hit on the second thing, class. Class plays a huge part in suburban society. And a lot of the times, people know who they're going to marry before they even grow up. What do I mean by that? As a kid, my dad used to tell me, hey, you're gonna marry this person. It's gonna be a shotgun wedding. You're not gonna have a choice. Why? Because typically 9 times out of 10, he's talked to the other dad. They've had some deal going on. They think it's going to be good for the family in the long run. They can see some benefit from linking up with us or us linking up with them, things like that. That's just how it goes, right? And I know arranged marriages nowadays are taboo because people are more concerned about love and all that stuff and romance and things like that. But in these type of communities, in the suburban communities, and then when you go a step further into the rich communities, the wealthy communities, you're definitely going to get an arranged marriage, especially if you're the only people that you have contact with is in your direct circle, whether you're homeschooled or you go to private school and things like that. Right, so you're going to be growing up a certain way. And I can remember going to etiquette class. I can remember going to dance class. I can remember going to theater arts and acting. I can remember giving speeches, standing up on stage and, talking for hours about just different things and competing in spelling bees and things like that. A lot of times these are not in other communities. And so the reason why this community, the suburban community, is so prevalent and also hated at the same time is because people who don't come from this community look at us and they call us Uncle Toms and white boys and things like that. And that's okay. But when you start going to public school and you start making friends that are outside of your normal friends, they're going to look at that like a problem. Okay, but being strong and understanding where you came from and who you are is going to become a huge role in you normalizing yourself. And again, we weren't deprived of any social interactions. We always interacted with older people. We interacted with younger people not on a daily basis, but on let's just say a quarterly basis. When we went to church with their young people, we would talk to them. When we go out to the stores and everything like that. So we were socially able. We were not socially awkward, but we were just not in tune with society, hip hop culture, rock culture, country culture, anything like that, because we didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know who Michael Jackson was until I was 10, 11, 12 years old. Whenever he died, I think he died in 2007, 2008. And don't quote me on that, but I'll do some research on that. But I think that's when he died. And when he died is when I found out about him. My mom was all torn up. She was all sad. And honestly, I really didn't care. But, when I started listening to his music, that's when I really acknowledged that, man, this dude is a musical genius. But that just goes to show how unworldly we were at this point in time. We were only focused on education. We were only focused on etiquette and going places and doing things and trying to prepare for our future and things like that. So a lot of times that took precedence over whatever we wanted to do. And we weren't even worried about that because we didn't know about that. Okay. Now the last thing I want to talk about is travel. If you're in a military household, you live in a suburban community, right? Most people in the suburban communities take about 4 to 5 vacations every single year. Okay, that's normal for us. A lot of people have never been on vacation. I feel for you guys. You guys need to go on vacation because it's going to change your life and it's going to change your perspective on everything. I was fortunate enough, living through lives that I've been to, 16 to 20 different states so far, and I'm only 28 years old. Okay, and a lot of that has to do with, just being in the military, not able to sit still and things like that. So we're always traveling. We're traveling a lot, and it's nothing to us. I was on my first plane. I wasn't even 1 year old. That's how deep it goes, okay? So guys, when I say this stuff, I'm not saying it to say, hey, I'm better than you because I grew up in the suburban community. I'm just highlighting the differences between the two, and I'm going to bring them together. Now, what I'm going to be doing, guys, for this channel is you'll start seeing more topics pop up, okay? And it's going to be exciting because you're always going to want to ask these questions like, how did you grow up? You're a little weird. You're antisocial, things like that, when it's not the case at all. I will say tune into the rest of the videos, guys. If you got some value out of this, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell because I'm going to be dropping a whole bunch of videos, and I'm going to be dropping them soon. So thank you guys for your time, and I will see you guys on the next one.